She said, good news, you're not going to owe anything. And in fact, I think you're going to get a bunch back because as an entrepreneur. So I did the cartoon eyes, the awooga, like, what? I think you're emailing the wrong guy. What? You just told me I won't owe any taxes. Because my tax bills at the time were low to mid six figures every year.
I was like, wait a second, you're making like $2 million a year just in rent from your commercial real estate? And he's like, yeah, and it's pretty
awesome.
So effectively you just divide the 100,000 by 10% and you get $1 million. And I was like, wait a second. A 10 cap is a 10x multiple? Kriss Berg, you are a serial entrepreneur. Your companies do close to $10 million a year in revenue. You've got tons of different businesses. You've got e-commerce, real estate, agencies. Like, you're an entrepreneur's entrepreneur, which I freaking love. You said two things to me before we got started. One was you were not planning on being an entrepreneur. So I'm so excited to explore that with you because I'm like, same. And then the second thing was you started this incredible flywheel with your businesses about how you generate cash and then where you put that cash in tax advantage vehicles. And then that feeds back into the business. Like, it's kind of blowing my mind. Can you just tell me that? How does the flywheel work?
Yeah. So I've had an e-commerce business for almost 15 years now. It's health supplementing, but that business kicks off nice cash flow for me and my partner. I live on some of that money, and then I pour the excess profits into commercial real estate. So I have 4 car washes, 2 car washes under contract, and a gas station. And that whole thing has completely nuked my tax bill for 3 years now, and should be for this 4th year too. So
nuked it in a good way though, right?
Yeah, I paid 0 income tax. I pay a lot of property tax. I pay a lot of your local taxes, sales tax, all that stuff, but 0 income tax.
So the idea is generate high cash flow from the e-commerce business or whatever high margin business that is. And then you funnel that money back into real assets, real estate, because you can use bonus depreciation being one of them to offset your tax bill. So then you have more cash to then reinvest in business, which then grows that business, kicks off more cash, and it's just like this virtuous cycle. Is that fair?
So here's the thing. I wasn't smart enough to figure this out. I fell ass backward into this. I was looking for a self-storage facility to buy because if you recall in 2021, if you were on Twitter at all, you had to buy a self-storage facility. It was literally required to have an account. And I was looking for one to buy, and nobody wanted to sell them because they were red hot. And the agent said, you should look at this car wash. I think it's a pretty good deal. These guys, they were completely neglecting the business. So we bought it for like $650. We went in, put in new equipment, which was not too expensive, raised the prices up to market rates. We put it on Google Maps. It got a bunch of 5-star reviews, and we doubled the business. And it went from it was making like 65 grand a year. Now it's making 140, 150 grand a year. And we thought, well, this is really good. Let's do it again. We bought another one. It was a carbon copy of that one. And that December, this is 2022, every December, maybe you do the same thing. You email your accountant. Okay, well, what's the damage on taxes here? She said, good news. You're not going to owe anything. And in fact, I think you're going to get a bunch back because as an entrepreneur. So I did the, the cartoon eyes, the awooga, like, what? Pick up the phone. Like, I think you're emailing the wrong guy. What? You just told me I won't owe any taxes. Because my tax bills at the time were low to mid six figures every year.
Because you were personally making from the e-commerce brand, like high six figures, probably 900,000
year after year. And I was used to pay check for the tax man for 200K, 300K. And that was on top of my quarterlies.
Right.
So I had basically just made $400,000 or $500,000 and I didn't know how. I said, what are you talking about? And she said, bonus depreciation. And I knew there was a part of it because people were talking about it, but I didn't understand it at all. I didn't know what it was. That got my attention. And so ever since I've been like all in on this. And so car washes are active businesses. A storage facility is a passive real estate. When you're renting a facility, you're leasing space or square footage, it's passive. Car wash is an active business. And for some reason with the tax code, the tax man decided that everything on a car wash and everything on a gas station is eligible for bonus depreciation except for the dirt, except for the real estate itself.
Can you explain what bonus depreciation is?
It's basically a tax break that Trump did in I think the first one is 2017. And then he
Yeah.
just re-upped it with the big, beautiful bill. And it's a way to spur investment in small business. They want you buying equipment. They want you buying factories. They want you buying hard assets and the way the tax man thinks of it is it has to have a life of 15 years or less. Okay.
My favorite thing to say is, man, it's a real estate giveaway. It's almost like we had a real estate mogul as the president of the United States. It's so weird. It's so weird.
Once you get into investing in commercial real estate, you will realize, and really residential real estate is eligible too, in a lot of ways. Most of the tax code is written for you to invest in real estate. And that's why it's such a huge flywheel. And I just kind of fell backwards into this, but it's a massive advantage.
I'm just going to try to paint a picture for the audience if you're listening. So instead of, hey, I bought $1 million asset, I made $100,000 in profit, I'm going to pay 30% of that $100,000 to the tax man. Actually, what happens is you still made $100,000 in profit, but now you've got this 15-year depreciation on $1 million asset. So we're talking about, let's call it $75,000 a year in depreciation,
right?
Because 75,000 over 15 years is about $1 million. Now It's like, oh, I had $100,000 gain, but I have this $75,000 offset of depreciation. My taxable income is actually only $25,000. So I am only going to pay, call it 10 grand, somewhere in that ballpark. That's the magic of bonus depreciation. The flip side, I would say, is they are wanting to spur investment in commercial real estate in particular, because we do have an aging infrastructure. They want you to come in and say like, crap, I just paid all this money. I can't afford to upgrade the facilities. So this is like one of the ways that they get you incentivized to have the money to invest in those facilities. So I don't know. Did I do a good job of like explaining the bonus depreciation idea or no?
You explained straight line depreciation over 15 years. The bonus aspect is that you take it all in 1 year. Instead of the 75 over 15 years, it's $1 million write-off this year. Okay.
Gosh, where were you 2 years ago when I sold my businesses, man?
I have had a crash course in this stuff. So I've got the 2 car washes under contract right now. It's $4 million. It's 2 locations. The real estate, meaning just the dirt sitting under these places, is probably worth max of, let's say, $500,000. So the rest of it, the equipment, the building, everything on it are worth $3.5 million. With the bonus depreciation, if we wanted to, we could take a $3.5 million write-off this year. That would subtract from whatever income we had and would, for most people, would be a loss. And that'd be a loss that you could carry over probably for a couple of years.
And for anyone who's right now like, actually you can't because you're not a real estate professional.
Don't need it.
Actually,
don't need it.
You don't need it because these are real businesses.
These are active businesses. They count against active losses, active gains. So if you have
holy crap,
I talk to people all the time that are like, hey, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm making mid 6 figures, upper 6 figures, and I've got this massive tax bill. What can I do? This is an option.
Well, dude, this is what I was going to ask you because I'm a freaking moron. And
oh my, we're going to get a lot of it.
So I was like, this is it. Cool. I got some cash. I'm making money. I'm going to go buy some real estate. So me and my friend, Kriss Kerner, we buy an RV park, get the RV park, things are going. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, that should offset my taxes, right? And I go to my accountant. He's like, well, I mean, they're passive losses. And I was like, okay, well, we'll just offset it against those passive gains I have. And
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
well, you don't have any passive gains. So
Right.
I'm like, wait, come on, say what? So literally my wife, I have like 500 grand sitting in passive losses right now. It's just there. And my wife's like, why are we paying this money to the IRS? Don't we have all these losses you told me was just going to be offset? And I was like, oh, I made a mistake. You have 2 under LOI right now?
Yep.
What's the combined value? Or are you okay sharing what the kind of the combined value of those two
Yeah,
is?
it's $4 million. Yeah.
Okay. So $4 million, and you're going to buy these. You're not going to pay $4 million in cash. I'm assuming you're going to finance.
Yep.
Okay. So you're going to put how much down to buy these $4 million worth of car washes?
About 700 and change down.
Okay. So you put $700,000, you get a $4 million asset. And in year 1, $3.5 million of your taxes.
Well, now
I've just
you
been
have $1 million in taxes. It's going, so you got some income.
Yes.
So let's just say you had $1 million in income, but you have a $3.5 million loss. Now you have a $2.5 million loss So you're not going to pay any income taxes. That $2.5 million will roll over to next year. Now, we should caveat all this with talk to your accountant because everybody's situation is different. And the carryover is a little more complex than I'm making it sound. But these are the basics. This is the 101 version. And it's incredibly powerful for wealth.
Well, the other caveat, so yes, we're not financial experts. And number two is you can't just do that and then sell the property and be like, oh, cool, I made $2.5 million. There is a thing called recapture.
You're going to recapture. So my plan is to hold on to these for a long time. I'm really hoping to pass a lot of this on. I'm going to build a real estate empire. I want to have car washes and storage and gas stations. I want to build buildings. I want to rehab buildings. And I'm hoping to pass on an empire to my kids. Now, if they want no part of it, that's fine. But if I were to die and hand them off to their kids, then they reset their basis and they don't actually pay for the depreciation recapture. There's other options. 1031 is a huge option. Obviously, if you just got sick of the car wash, I can't do this anymore, you could 1031 and avoid taxes. But it is a tax deferral system at its essence. There's a million ways around that too.
Yeah, but if you think about compounding, whether it's compound interest or just compound learning, whatever, the more time your money has to work, the more of a return you're able to generate. And so if you are cutting out, paying an extra $500,000, $1 million a year in taxes, that money goes back into your assets and you're just compounding, right? So yes, eventually you pay the taxes, whether it's the recapture or if it's a 1031, and then you finally have to pay the taxes at some point.
Right.
But you've now built up this massive base of assets, which is freaking incredible. I knew a guy who had I'm going to have to describe it so he's not known. Let's just call it a commercial manufacturing company. And his company wasn't massive. It's doing about $7 million a year. Let's call it $1 million a year in profit. Okay. But he lived in this baller house, baller yard, took massive, tons of trips, very generous. And I was always like, what the freak? And as I got older and into business, I finally was able to talk to him. I was like, how did you do this? He's like, well, what I did, it's not from my business. I just took most of my excess cash and just started buying commercial real estate. And over the last 20 years, my commercial real estate, I now make almost double than my business. So I was like, wait a second, you're making $2 million a year just in rent from your commercial real estate? And he's like, yeah. And it's pretty passive. Now, it's freaking incredible. And I use that story now because a lot of people are like, I want to buy a business that generates passive income. And I always point to that example. I'm like, look, only way to get to passive income is you either inherit a bunch of money and you can buy real estate and then it's passive, or you work your butt off for X number of years and you accumulate an asset base and then you're just getting checks.
Yes.
Nobody buys just a quote unquote passive business. It's not a thing.
No. And the car washes, I'm working, it's probably down to about 5 hours a week now when
wow.
integrate these two new ones. That'll be another 5 hours a week. So my philosophy is kind of 1 in, 1 out. So I'm sticking on the 5 hours a week. And in the beginning, it'll be closer to 10 to 20 hours a week of these new car washes. So I have to get something else off my plate. So in the other business, I say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. Hire an offshore worker or train somebody on the team to do this part of the job for me because I got to go over here and work on this real estate for a little bit. So I've always making sure that I'm not just adding things to my plate, taking something out too. That's key to it.
Dude, okay. I'm so glad I'm talking to you. I think you're 50, right? You just turned 50?
Just turned 50 last week. Yeah.
Dude, happy birthday. I turned 40 next month. So almost exactly 10 years apart.
Man.
I don't feel that way. I'm going to be honest. This is the first birthday. But you're dropping some gold nuggets in here because I'm kind of dealing with that thing right now, trying to figure out how do I delegate? How do I make sure that I'm not just putting things on my plate, but I'm actually then offloading it? You're also talking about the car washes, but it sounds like you don't have that many and you're just kind of getting into it. So am I fair to assume that there was a period of time where you were doing entrepreneurship and you weren't necessarily optimizing everything?
Oh.
How long have you been doing this, playing this game?
23 years in January. I bought my first business in January 2003 with an SBA loan. It cost a whopping $180,000. I had 50 grand of my own money that I had made working heavy civil construction jobs and got sick of the grind and Actually, all my bosses went to jail. It was,
What?
yeah, I was working in Alabama on this huge tunneling project, and all the bosses were on the take. So they were bid rigging, and then they were
Mm.
backing and all this stuff. And I saw the writing on the wall, and I left 2 weeks before the FBI wrecked and came in and seized everything. And so I was 27, and I just like, I hate this. I hated working for somebody else. I had zero entrepreneurial instincts. I didn't know what to do. I'd read a bunch of books, but I moved back to Denver at the time, and my friend had just bought like a lube shop, and he had gotten an SBA loan. He knew the SBA process, and he had a similar path. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Found an excavation company, and I did everything wrong. And I mean, I bought the business, and 2 weeks later it was payroll. And I was like, wait, what? Because I'm looking at this money in the bank. I'm like, hey, we're doing pretty good. And I think I had 15 grand, and I think payroll was 18. And I was like, wait a minute. I thought this was my money. And so baptism by fire, but I grew that. It was doing 180 top line, grew it to 2.6, 2.7 million, sold it 4 years later.
Oh, wow.
And just made all the mistakes though. I was doing everything myself. It was a completely flat organization. And we went from 3 employees to 25, and they were all reporting to me essentially. And I was super stressed out, and basically a home services business. We did excavation for
When did you sell?
2007, which was pure luck.
I was just going to say, geez,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. So sold in September 2000. I think Lehman Brothers happened. Was that 09? I don't know.
October.
Was it October that year? Yeah. So everything fell apart. I mean, just pure luck that I sold it. And I did see the writing on the wall. Like a lot of my customers that were custom builders, they were like, yeah, a house used to sit on the market for a month, and now it's sitting on that house on the market for 6 months. And I thought, that's going to hit me in the wallet. So
Is that why you got out? Or were you just like, I want to do something else?
it was mostly pure burnout. I was, at the time, 2006, I don't know if you remember this, you had to buy how many minutes you were going to use on your phone a month. Like you had to tell.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I remember going for the max package. It was like 6,000 minutes a month. I was using every minute of that. And I was putting 50,000 miles on my truck every year. I just drove around and yelled at people on the phone for 12 hours a day. And I knew I was going to die. I was seriously going to die if I kept doing that. It was so stressful. And sold it and completely, literally moved off the grid. We moved to Steamboat Springs. I met my now wife right in that phase.
Dang.
And she was like, I don't want to live in Denver. And I realized I didn't really either. So we moved into a house that was solar and wind powered, and went just complete opposite, right? There was nothing going on now. I lived in a house where I would hear like police helicopters flying overhead. And then we moved up to the grid, and it was like, wow, we have to drive an hour for food. So it was,
you went from putting 50,000 miles a year on your truck to like 5.
Yeah.
You just worked.
Yeah. We started, kind of homesteading and that kind of thing. And I had to figure out how to run this house off solar.
Hey, I don't know if you remember this, but when we started this podcast, we entered into a social contract. I would spend time, energy, and money producing this podcast, interviewing these individuals, and giving you insights into how to build, buy, start, grow your business. And you would like, subscribe, and leave me 5-star review. Now, out of that, we both get to talk to really cool people and hear really cool insights. We both get a ton of value. But I just want to help you keep your word. So would you do me a favor? Will you go leave a 5-star review for me on Apple or Spotify? It would really help. And if you want, even share this with a friend. So through the Great Recession, you were off the grid.
We were off the grid, and I moved up there. I still was under the impression that I could be a builder. I was because I saw these builders, and like, they were building custom homes, and the only person making any money was the developer, right? Like all the contractors were fighting over scraps. And I thought, I'll just go up to Steamboat and I'll build a house every year and maybe make a couple $100,000 and I'll be happy. And that was 2007, and that was the worst possible timing.
What did you sell your business for?
Sold the business for just under $1 million. I walked with because I had some debts and stuff. We had to pay off equipment. I walked with like 690 or something, like 650 or something, which was a lot in 2007 was a lot of money. And
dude, that's what I was going to say is like, well, and especially for a first exit, like that's still.
And again, no entrepreneurial instincts. I had no idea. My parents were both wages their entire lives. And so we bought a house and I bought a lot. I was going to build on it.
Did you put all the money into the house? Like, did you pay cash for the house?
Well, no, we got a loan, but it was weird because certain banks wouldn't even loan on it because they're like, oh, you're not connected to the grid. There's no electric meter. We can't finance this house. Like,
makes sense.
Yeah. What does that?
Makes sense. We can't finance this house. There's no electric meter. You're like, I don't, what?
It's still a house, right?
That's an underwriting criteria.
Yeah, no, exactly. So
what did you do then? Like, because I could see that you go out there, there's no building going on and you weren't entrepreneurial, like you say, but you have some money.
I had a little bit of a nest egg. My wife worked and I picked up a book called The 4 Hour Workweek. And that book changed everything for me because all of a sudden you could make money wherever you were. And there was no jobs. There was no business to run at Steamboat at the time. Everything was in a complete trapper. So I bought a website after that. It happened to be about solar power because I was learning that really well, living with it every day. Started selling solar kits and stuff like that. And then I had a bunch of I had a bunch of health issues at the same time too. My digestion, probably all related to my stress levels. Had a bunch of digestion issues, energy and all this stuff. And I went to doctors. They couldn't ever figure anything out. And this is 2008, 2009 is right when Google and social media really is taking off. And it's finally, you could get real information from the web. Before that, it was really sketchy and unreliable. And so researched on my health issues and started a health business, started selling health supplements. So that was how I transitioned to an e-commerce health business.
And the e-commerce business has been around ever since.
Yep.
What kind of supplements are you selling?
So we've got CBD stuff, we've got blood sugar stabilizers, and we've got pure xanthan is my favorite thing because it's like sunscreen in a pill. Take this stuff and it's an antioxidant. It's great. It's what makes salmon pink. So it gives your skin some pigment and it really nukes the antioxidants. Been doing that for 15 years. And this year, actually this weekend, we're launching a telemedicine business. We're going to be prescribing things like Semaglutide, which is basically Ozempic. Mm-hmm. There's
GLP-1s.
GLP-1s are hot. We're going to be prescribing those, TRT, HRT. There's a big demand for ivermectin and EPC 157 and all that stuff. So it's a big shift for us into kind of a Western medicine.
Well, the reason I love these businesses is because, I mean, you saw it with the supplement business. There's a big disconnect between the brainiacs who are like, if we just affect these molecules, I know CRISPR gene editing, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
And actually getting it in the hands of people who need to use this stuff. And that's where entrepreneurs step in and say like, wait a second, you can lose how many pounds? How many years to your life does it add? I could sell this, right? And so entrepreneurs come in and they figure out a way to actually get it into the hands of people. I think the inventor of Ozempic, is it Novo Nordisk?
Yeah.
I think that's their name.
Novo, yep.
Their stock has kind of been hammered.
It has.
Because they weren't able to effectuate the type of distribution they needed that people thought they were going to get because people like you were like, I actually think we could manufacture these off-label and have the same outcomes and get it in the hands of people. So to me, this health stuff is kind of if you're interested in it in particular, it's a gateway drug into entrepreneurship because people need it. If you can figure out how to get buyers and sellers together, whether that's through an e-commerce store or whether that's through a platform with physicians who are writing prescriptions, I just think it's freaking fantastic.
I totally agree. And after my first business, which is basically like digging and laying concrete, which neither one of those have changed in like 150 years. After that, I decided I want to be on the nose cone of the rocket. Like I'm going to be whatever is taking off. That's why we got into CBD. And that's why we're getting into telemedicine. And I asked ChatGPT like a year ago, I was like, what's going to be the annual growth rate for telemedicine? And it was like 26% annually. All these people, especially in our generation, right, that are kind of sick of the doctor thing, right? If you can get an appointment in the next 3 months, you go in there, it's 10 minutes, you're gone, right? And you don't have time to really talk. And then, frankly, it's embarrassing to talk about if you need Ozempic or if you need some hair growth formula, or if you're really worried about your testosterone levels, like that's really hard to do.
It is. I was just talking to somebody about this. Functional medicine is the way that they talk about it, where typically when we go and see a primary care physician, and primary care physicians are fantastic. They're wonderful people. They're good doctors. They're good-hearted people, but they're not necessarily looking at it holistically, and they're not necessarily collaborating with an interdisciplinary team that is helping you find the right things for you. So I love these businesses. It's adjacent to what you're doing, but it's not exactly what you're doing. Where I could pay $10,000, $20,000 and I just go get all my blood tests once a year.
Yeah.
I do all of my panels. They tell me about my genes. They tell me about,
Yes.
I do a stress test on my heart. We do an MRI, everything.
Yes.
And it, gives me peace of mind. But then I also go talk to a dietitian and I talk to a specialist if there's anything that's wrong, or a geneticist that tells me kind of, hey, these are the best foods for you at this time of day, et cetera. Because we want better recommendations. We want better access to healthcare. So I freaking love that space that you're getting into. What was your first deal for car washes? You're doing all this other stuff. How the freak were you like, I'm going to go ahead and buy a car wash? You saw Cody Sanchez?
Well, a little bit. It was actually Nick Huber talking about the self-storage stuff.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I was like, well, let's look at the storage. And it was so overheated, and still is in a lot of ways, that I was like, well, that doesn't make financial sense at all.
But why that space? You didn't even know about the tax benefits of it.
So that's a great question. We were making money hand over fist during the pandemic because everybody all of a sudden was stuck at home and really concerned about their health. And so they were buying supplements, and we actually found one of our manufacturers had masks at the time. And so, so we were in May of 2020, we were the only e-com suppliers in the country who had masks. So we were just shipping them like it,
2020 was a good year.
It was a really, really good year. And so I was looking, starting then in 2021, I was just kind of bored. I was like, the e-commerce thing is great, and it just doesn't take a lot of time. It's still only like a 20-hour a week gig for me. I was just like, I need a little something. I need some juice. Like, I was mountain biking a lot, and I was snowboarding a lot, and I was going to the gym all the time, and I was bored. I was like, I need something to do, a little side gig that will make some money. And so the real estate thing popped up, and all the guys talking about commercial real estate, it finally clicked for me. This is the breakthrough for me, Nick. I realized that my online business, if I really grew it, really did a good job with it, if I sold it, I could probably get a 5 to 8x multiple, right? That's probably a really good outcome for an e-commerce business. Most people would be lucky to get 2 or 3x. I was looking at this car wash. I was like, wait a minute, he's getting 10x for this crappy. I mean, this place is a dump. And I thought that's what shooed me away for the first year. I was like, the hell with that. They don't even know how to value these things. They're crazy. And then I realized, wait a minute, I could go in there and double that business, and then it would be 10x that, the value on it. It finally flipped that these multiples work in your favor if you grow them, if you grow the business.
You just went full Cardone. You're like, dude, I just got 10x my mindset. If I 10x this 10x.
Literally 10x everything. I was like, this is way better.
I remember the first time I converted a cap rate valuation to like a multiple, because a lot of the commercial properties, they're valued off of a cap rate. And so it's like, oh, it's $100,000 a year at a 10 cap. And so what $100,000 a year at a 10 cap is a 10% expected return.
Yes.
So effectively you just divide the 100,000 by 10% and you get $1 million. And I was like, wait a second.
Oh.
10 cap is a 10x multiple?
Yes.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Which means wait. And that one cap is like a 15x multiple.
Yes. I'm like, these ones down the street, remember when interest rates were at 0 and there were like 4 caps?
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, this Dutch Bros is so good. You could get in for a 4 cap. And you're like, what the freak? This is like a 20x business, like more than 20x.
Yes.
And just insane.
Yeah.
So for you, that was like, that was kind of the aha moment.
I thought these real estate guys were nuts. You're getting 6% on your money. What are you doing? You're an idiot.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh, wait a minute. If you go in, you optimize the customer experience, you improve the customer experience, you improve the signage, you improve the Google ratings. A lot of these places, you can double the income, double the what's called the NOI, which is the profit for real estate-based business. And when you do that and multiply it by the cap rate, the numbers get really big, really fast. And it's funny because my car wash will do in a year what my e-com business will do in a month, but the car washes are actually probably worth more because it's real estate. And it makes no sense to somebody who's just breaking into this. But again, this is the flywheel. This is what exploded my net worth, because all of a sudden I had this $400,000 tax liability. all of a sudden that's going straight into assets, and those assets are compounding like crazy. And it's huge breakthrough.
If you were starting over again, I love this strategy, but like the real estate piece, kind of, from my perspective, this might be a dumb perspective, seems like it only comes into play once I'm making money on something else. And then it's like, okay, then I funnel into the real estate and it goes back. So how would you're starting over, you're 27-year-old Kriss again. What would you do? Like, what would you get into right now?
That is a great question. So it depends if you have a little coin, and I did at the time. I saved some up, and I think most of your listeners probably have a little bit of a nest egg. And I think it's a great idea to buy a business that's got some really good upside. You want it to be a little bit neglected. You want it to be a little old systems. The kind of the cliche of it's run on a fax machine or whatever is pretty appropriate, because you can find these businesses. I don't love home service, but I think if that was your best option, that was kind of the best way to break in. I think it's a great way to start. And I would look to build it up, try to double, triple the business and sell it in 4 or 5 years, because it's a grind. It's a huge.
It is a grind. I love that description. But you just described, like, what were those teen movies? 10 Things I Hate About You or whatever else. The girl who's like ugly because she has glasses on and dresses frumpy. And then all of a sudden she comes down the stairs. She has no glasses and her clothes are better.
Gorgeous.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what you want in a business.
That's like, what you want.
Some little changes. I'm not trying to get a bunch of plastic surgery. I can't afford all of that money.
Now, if you're really starting out from zero and you have nothing, there's a great follow. He's actually in my town and I'm mentoring him. His name's Jared Harden. And he's the guy who's doing parking lot striping. You've probably seen him on Twitter. He's got a little bit of capital, but he noticed that almost nobody in our county was doing it. The guys who did had like 2 Google ratings. They never answered their phone. And so he's found something like that. There's little things like that. And if you were in college and you're like, Kriss, I got nothing. I love the home service for seniors. A lot of seniors want sort of the new tech stuff that's supposedly really easy to install. Nest, Simply Safe, Ring doorbells. There's a ton of people who want that stuff and like that, but actually are scared to death of it. And for a college kid, you buy $100 worth of tools at Home Depot and watch a couple of YouTube videos. You can install all that stuff, right?
Well, watch a couple of YouTube videos and have ChatGPT, and all of a sudden you're the whole IT team. Like, you're going to figure it out.
And then you help them install the app on their phone and you charge them $250 to do it all.
I love the parking lot striping business.
Yeah.
I also love, have you seen the Stump grinders on Twitter?
Yeah. Stump grinding.
Bro, so Kriss and I did a podcast a year ago. It was last July. And because we have a tree trimming business, and we were like,
I remember this.
Hey, we think a really cool business to start would be contacting tree trimming companies and just saying, hey, I'll remove your stumps for you. And it's like, and then we laid out the business case for it. And so Tyler Mumford, who was kind of the first one, he went out, he freaking did it. He did over $250,000 in his first year. He just closed his first year. And now there's like 10. It's just him. Yeah, it's just him. And now there's like 10 other stump guys.
Yep.
But now that's a hard business to scale. Okay. I'm not going to pretend like, oh, you could be a $10 billion company. No, that's a hard business to scale. But to get into entrepreneurship and just start like generating some cash and building the entrepreneurial muscle, dude, just like the striping business, like that, those are just great businesses I can get into as a solopreneur, low downside risk, pretty low cap. I don't have to buy the machine. I can finance it. Like,
right.
It's not crazy to get into. So that's kind of where you would focus.
You nailed it on the head is stop hammering on scalability, especially on your first business. You need something, because if it was scalable, private equity and all the badass entrepreneurs in your town would have already done it, right? You need fill in those gaps that aren't scalable, that are going to take some blood, sweat, and tears, fill those gaps, make a couple $100,000, quit your W-2, and then you level up. Then you can get into something. And most people after that, they just started their businesses, right? Maybe they're buying it. Some people are doing roll-ups and stuff like that. But now I don't need to really buy any more businesses. We bought a little bolt-on for this telemedicine thing, but now for the most part, we can just start what we need to do. We have a little bit of capital. We got a lot of experience. And I look at a business and say, oh, this is $5 million. I could start it for 50. And in 5 years, I'll be at $5 million.
I've talked to a couple of people recently who are looking at they were telling me, they're like, I want to do a roll up. I'm like, okay, tell me about your first deal. Well, we're looking at this deal and it's like $500,000 a year in EBITDA.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's got like a decent leadership team. And I think that's going to be our first deal. And I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because if you're going to do a roll up, your first deal needs to be a platform level deal. And at $500,000 in EBITDA, the CEO is the owner.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to step in there. Like, you don't have a bench. You don't have systems that you can replicate. You don't have processes. You have nothing. Like,
You're going to be,
you're going to do your
every day. You're going to be in the
every
business.
single day.
Yep.
And that's what I feel like people have kind of, I don't know, denigrated. It's okay to be in the knife fight, dude. If you're getting into entrepreneurship, you should be in the knife fight. You need to understand how the business works. You're not just going to come in and be like, yeah, I want to hire an operator. Like, that's the dumbest thing. You're not going to be successful.
You are going to buy a job. If you buy a business, unless you have millions and millions of dollars, and if that's the case, you're probably never going to buy a business, because that golden
just buy commercial real estate.
Yeah. You're going to buy a job. The whole idea is that you buy a job and you scale it and you get it to where you're handing off. You're leveling everybody up, right? I was doing the knife fight. I was answering the phone every day. Now I got somebody answering the phone. I was doing the invoicing every day. So you're building up and you're delegating and you're taking stuff off your plate. That's going to be your job for the first 4 or 5 years in your first business. And if you can do that, you're going to scale a really nice business.
And that's okay. And like, you should be okay. Like, that's good. It's okay to work in the business.
Really rich doing that. It's going to take time. That's what I tell young entrepreneurs all the time. You're going to achieve your dreams. You're going to be really rich. You're going to have all the stuff you want, all this freedom you want. It's going to be way harder than you think it would be. And it's going to take way longer than you think it will. You just internalize those two things. You're going to get there.
Okay. I have a question for you, because I've been thinking about this a lot. People think that growth, especially when it comes to wealth, looks like this, right? It's like this trajectory. And more, I feel like success, especially in entrepreneurship, actually kind of looks like this. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, I have $1 million in my checking account. Like, when did that happen? Like, it's because it's compounding, like we were talking about.
That's exactly right. And if you zoom in on that little flat part that you were talking about, it's actually like this.
Yeah.
The scale is so small, you don't see that part. But yeah, I mean, my whole income and net worth took a huge hit through 2007 through 2011. It really took me to get back on my feet.
Really?
And it was kind of like a little bit of retirement, because I had a nest egg, but the online thing, it was okay, but it was small, and I snowboarded a lot. I got really good at snowboarding and mountain biking and all that stuff. And I really took some time off to figure out what I wanted to do, but I didn't have great income. I didn't have great net worth and all that stuff. So it was by most people's standards, there was those were down years, but they're some of the most rewarding for me, because I got a lot of time with my wife. We got to travel. We got to live off the grid and really just sort of connect with nature and all this stuff. So yeah, I just feel like now I'm reaching that inflection point, the kind of the hockey stick thing. Like, just now I'm 50, right? I've been doing this 23 years. I feel like now things are finally taking off. They don't take a lot of my time. I make decisions easily. I know what to say no to, which is a huge part of what people have to figure out, is when to say no. I say no very quickly now. I know exactly what I want out of my career.
Dude, you're making me feel so much better about myself right now. I'm turning 40 next month, and I just, for whatever reason, no other birthdays ever stressed me out. And this one, I'm like,
So how's it hitting you? What keeps you up?
I think things that keep me up are my kids are, oh man, I'm going to get emotional. They're just growing so fast, man. 11, 8, 5, and 3. And I don't want to miss any years. And I'm like, man, I blinked and I'm 40. I'm going to blink and be 50, and they're going to be out of the house. So that's something that keeps me up. I've also been struggling with this thing of feeling like, well, you're 40. You are who you are. You've got your weaknesses and you suck at them. And you know what I mean? And I'm like, man, I thought I would have been better at this, or I would have overcome this challenge. And like, why am I still struggling with X, Y, and Z? So for me, that kind of those two things have really been.
I can tell you right now, I can just tell you, we don't know each other that well, but I can just tell you from what you're doing, this podcast, how your online presence, you are going to grow more than you ever thought. Your 40s, I think, for me anyway, were when I really blossomed. Like
Wow.
at 40, I was in bad shape physically. I was not in a great place mentally. And now I feel like maybe this is the halfway mark of my life. I mean, I might live just 20 more years, but how I feel right now, how my career is going, how my what kind of father I am and husband, I'm just now hitting my stride. So it's going to change. You're going to keep growing. You're going to figure out how to prioritize your family and your kids. And again, that saying no thing.
Yeah. What was the biggest change for you? Like, what was the biggest unlock for you? If you could, like, okay, it's cool that you had the tax wealth building, like that's cool. But in terms of like, before you could even get there, you kind of had to unlock yourself, like you were talking about. Was it spending time? Was it learning to say no? Was it delegation? Was it like what?
All of that, getting everything off my plate that I hated, because you got to have some income to do that, right? You can't just, and when you're starting out, you can't just hire everybody. Like you said, you can't just hire an operator. I had this construction company and I decided I needed vacation. I went to Belize and I did all this research, and this is like 2005. Cell phones are very weird back then. I did all this research and I bought this like international package so I could take calls in Belize. And so I paid like $150 so that my phone would work. I got there, it didn't work once. It was a total brick. And I was totally stressed out for the first 2 days. And by day 3, I was like, screw it. There's literally nothing I can do. I'm not going back.
Yeah.
I put the phone in the bag. I turned it off and everything was fine. I got back. I just assumed there would be this fire. You know, that gif where the guy walks in with the pizza and everything's literally on fire. And I got to the meeting Monday morning. I'm like, guys, is it okay? And they were like, yeah, of course. Fine. What do you think? We're a bunch of idiots? Like, of course, we can handle it. I realized that they wanted to be empowered, that they wanted to be trusted, and they wanted me to get the hell out of the way. That was the biggest breakthrough, is get out. They loved it when I was gone because they finally felt like they owned their own job. And before I was meddling, right? I was showing up on the job and say, do it this way. They didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So huge thing for me, Nick, air gapping my day, which means about 4:30, I put on the headphones, I put on some binaural beats, and I just do this 10, 15-minute wind down. I literally lay on the floor. I have a pillow in my office over here, lay on the floor, and I just zone out. And for the first 7 minutes, it's the monkey, right? It's the grind. Oh, I should have done this today. I got to do this. And I refuse to let myself write anything down. I don't play with the to-do list. I just say, if it's important, it'll come back. Call it a meditation, call it whatever you want. But at the 15-minute mark, I am totally zenned out, and I go upstairs and I'm present with my family. And I'm not, the monkey mind isn't thinking about, I should start a stump grinding business.
How long have you been doing that?
It's been a couple years now. That helps.
I'm committing to you. I'm going to try it.
Try.
I'm really going to try it.
Find some music or something, anything. YouTube's got a million free options. You don't need an app.
Yeah.
Just find something that'll kind of zone you. It could be like the Enya kind of massage music or something.
Yeah.
Thing with lyrics, but just do that, zone out. And then of course, the biggest thing is don't get trapped in your phone for the next 2 hours, right? Put it on silent, put it away, go hang out with the kids. And that'll check all those boxes. Like, you don't want to miss their youth, right? Give them 2 hours a day uninterrupted, and then you'll come back more refreshed for your business, right? Then you're raring to go because you've been thinking about it all night. You wake up in the morning, you're like, boom, let's hit it.
Kriss, I am serious. This has probably been, I've done 230 of these now.
Really?
This might be I don't want to say the best because I'm a prisoner of the moment.
Right.
But probably top 3.
That's awesome, dude.
Conversations that I've had, and like walking away from this, I'm more energized than when I came in. Thank you. Those freaking amazing conversations. Where can people come find you?
Go find me on Twitter. Kriss Berg Tweets. It's KRISSBERG Tweets. If the health stuff struck a chord with you, go to healthyliving.clinic. Otherwise, let's connect on Twitter. Let's hang. I love that platform. It's changed my life, and I love inspiring people to do what I do. So, and I love what you're doing, Nick. This podcast is awesome. You are a great interviewer, and keep going.
Thank you.
This is what you and Kriss. I love your stuff. I love following you guys, and I love the pods, and it's really powerful, dude. You're helping people a lot more than you know. You probably don't hear as much as you should, but it's incredibly inspiring, and you should be really proud.
All right. Hopefully you liked that episode. And if you've made it this far, you're either really committed or you're stuck doing yard work and you can't actually skip on your phone. So while I have you, the show is growing, but I have a favor to ask of you. Will you please help me grow the show? I want to reach more people. There's a couple things that you can do. Like and subscribe is the simplest thing. Obviously, you want to get notifications for when the next episode is coming out. But if you go the next step, will you leave me a review? 5-star on Spotify or Apple. What that does is it tells the algorithm that, oh, hey, this is a high value podcast because more people are leaving reviews for it, and it then pushes it out to more people. So that's why when people are like, will you like and subscribe and put a 5-star rating? It's not just to make themselves feel better. It's actually to get more exposure for the show. So if you do that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.